It's my pleasure to have Michael Olajide, the former contender, two-time world champion contender, on a ringside seat with Tassie. Welcome, mate.
Hey, thank you, Tazzy. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. It's good that our good friend John Iceman Scully can put us in contact together.
Yeah, I sees the connection between everybody in boxing. He's that thread. He's that good. He's a good brother.
He's a good brother for sure, man. I've had the honour to get to know him recently at the last couple of Saudi events in Riyadh, and we
Yeah,
we talk boxing, we have coffees, and we just talk the sport
yeah.
that we love, and he's very knowledgeable.
He's extremely knowledgeable, and that's what's the great thing about boxing. Like guys that have done it before,
Yeah,
they're able to tell you the real thing. You know what I mean? And
that's
it's unedited, and it's their truth. It's everyone's had their own experience in boxing, but it's his personal truth, and it speaks like it's the same thing all of us boxers go through. So it's great.
yeah. There's nothing I like better, mate. Sitting down and talking about the great sport, mate. Anyway, look, I remember when you were fighting, mate. You had a great career. I believe you started boxing originally in Canada. Is that true?
Yes, I originally started in Vancouver, Canada, and I was amateur for it was a very short period of time, a year to a year and a half. I was able to get my feet wet. Then, necessity takes place. Instead of developing myself as an amateur, I ended up turning pro early. And that was, it was a time of growth, experience, experimenting. It was really it was a wild ride as soon as we turned pro.
Yeah, of course. And like, I think was Canada like really big at that time in the pro boxing scene. I mean, like compared to America.
Yeah. Not necessarily in the professional boxing scene, but we had guys that were going to the Olympics, like Dale Walters,
Yeah,
who was a very established amateur boxer. In fact, he was world champ a couple of times as an amateur. DeWitt, not Doug DeWitt. Oh, he was a heavyweight,
yeah. I
and
think
he
I know
fought
the
like
guy.
I think Henry Tillman. He fought for the title. He was out of Calgary, Alberta, and he was a really good He was a good, really good heavyweight, and they saw good things for him as a heavyweight, as a professional. He won a silver medal in the Olympics. Dale Walters won a bronze, and Canada was represented kind of well for the first time in a long time. But after that, the wells dried up, and nothing much on the outlook right now.
Yeah. So how old was you when you turned pro?
I was 17 when I turned pro.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was very early, and yeah, fights were very hard to find. You know what I mean? They're hard to come by. Professional fights as well as amateur fights, but definitely professional fights. Unless we went over the border, if you go into Washington State, then it got a lot more competitive amateur wise. At that time in the late 80s, late 70s and early 80s. The Pacific Northwest, I think, was the leading of the amateur boxers. They had so many incredible talents coming up out of the Pacific Northwest, more so than down south, more so than East Coast, all of that. And you were kind of running it for a minute. And then, like anything, it hits its popularity, hits a saturation point, and then that was it. Bottom sort of dropped out of it. But that helped me because I fought a lot of good fighters out of the Pacific Northwest. And I think that really helped my maturity. For instance, I fought Greg Hogan, who was the lightweight champion of the world.
Wow.
And yeah, so I fought him as an amateur. I fought a kid named Mylon Watkins, who was like the Junior Olympics champion globally. And then I fought a really like Joey Balintz, who was an incredible fighter. Now he fought as a professional, but he fought Pernell Whitaker twice. He beat him once in the box
Oh,
off the Olympics,
yeah.
and then he fought him again, and they said he lost, but he was an incredible talent. So those are the kind of guys I got in the ring with early as an amateur, and they kind of set my pace. They kind of said, "Listen, I'm going to adapt my game because, I think I was 1-2 against those guys, and it would have been worse if I would have stayed there."
The old saying is iron sharpens iron. So I mean, if you're up against the great fighters like that and people that are fighting, you just mentioned Pernell Whitaker. It's one of my personal favorites of all time. So, I
Incredible
mean,
fighter.
yeah, and Greg Haugen, I see you talking about some good fighters there. And yeah, so you did turn professional quite young. And how many fights did you have in Canada before you moved to New York?
I believe it was about 13 or 14,
Yeah.
somewhere around there, 14, 15 fights. So I fought some really good fighters. I won the Canadian middleweight title. I won the World Athletic Association title, which was in Fiji, and Sean O'Grady. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, the champ, Sean
Yeah,
O'Grady. I
yeah,
sure
Sean
do.
O'Grady, yeah. So his dad started a league which was before the WBO, but there was the WBA, WBC, and he wanted the WAA. And so
Mm.
he brought us out to Fiji to fight the champ in the Pacific Islands or something like that. And it was scheduled for 15, and I won that fight by knockout. I believe it was in the 11th.
Yep.
And so it was, I got, even if it wasn't obviously the champ was Marvin Hagler, and that's all there is to it. There's no second guessing about that.
Yeah, of course.
Getting that 15 round experience, getting ready for it, and just being in a different atmosphere it was magnificent. One of the most beautiful times of my life.
Yeah, so you was I mean, yeah, so he was in a very tough era, obviously with Hagler still champion. But
Yeah.
he would have been pretty late into his reign though, would he, at that time when he was champ, when he was boxing?
What? I'm sorry, he would have what?
Hagler would have been pretty like, long into his reign because I think he held the title
Yeah.
for about 10 years, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. He had it for a long time. And let me see, at the time when I was coming along, he was at the end of his reign because I came into it, I guess I hit the world ratings like maybe around 86.
Yeah.
80, 85, 86. I got into the top 20. And then in the 86, you're just sharpening your tools. All you do is you see Hagler. You don't look at the other guys, the other contenders who you're going to have to fight. But in the gym every single day, Hagler does this. This is what you're supposed to do when he does that. And
Yeah.
and you just have this hunger to fight him. And then all of a sudden you're moving closer and you can't believe it because it's like, I mean, you're 16-0, 19-0, and this guy is a legend. But as a fighter, that's your heart. That's what you're supposed to do. You're built to, like, I mean, I had a ton of people, including friends close to me. They were like, this guy's gonna murder you. Are you kidding me? Like, why would you even want to fight him? But they don't understand the nature of a fighter.
That's right.
If you can't, if you can't test it against the best, then what's the use? And that's what I don't understand about a lot of today's fighters.
Yeah.
They You know what I mean? It's like you want to test yourself against the best. You want if you're not deserving of holding the crown, then let someone else come and take it. That was the nature. That was the mentality back from, in the 80s and going back. If I don't deserve it, then I don't have it. That's all there is to it.
100%. I mean, it's like De La Hoya. He wanted his hero Chavez. I mean, he wanted him and he got him. So I mean,
Mhm.
I bet when he set his sights on him, it would have been probably unrealistic. But if
Yeah.
he wanted that bad. The old saying is the beat the the be the man. You got to beat the man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's a
and
beautiful thing. You're absolutely right. That's the beautiful thing about boxing back in that time. It really was pure, and the fighters fought for one thing only, the motivation of becoming world champ. Today, without a doubt, it's money. And that's
yeah.
it pretty much reflects the globe. The whole planet is like that. It's about a dollar, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, totally agree. There's a lot of guys now. I won't name them because I know a few of them. You know what I mean? But I mean, yeah, it's a social media status and
Yes.
how many followers and how much money. They're not really even interested in the belts like they used to be. Like the belt would
Yeah.
define the champion. And it's
Yeah.
very different now, and they are getting paid good money. Good luck to them, because I believe every boxer
Yes.
should get paid. But I mean, yeah, the shine's gone off. That being, I think they're not as worried about their legacy as much now. Like.
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
the problem. I mean, and yeah, look, given the legends like the era that you was in, mentioned like the guys like Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, and Duran, and
Mhm.
the Ali's of the world, and the
Yeah.
Whitakers, Chavezes, and
Yeah. Oh,
that's the
yeah.
thing. I mean, Aaron Pryor's and Alexis
Yes.
Aguayo's like it's not
Oh,
like that
man.
now. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, now we're talking. Now
Yeah.
we're talking. But I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. You're talking.
it's definitely
I,
lost a lot of
yeah.
that shine now, and yeah, I mean the youngsters, I try and educate them about some of these
Yeah.
names, and
Yeah.
they only know the Jake Pauls and the Ryan Garcias, unfortunately. So
Yeah. It is unfortunate. And it's wild because like the depth of talent people today generally won't understand the depth of talent. Like you went 25 deep, you went 40 fighters deep, and
Mm,
you're talking about you got to fight, no matter what, you got to
mm,
fight. And today it just isn't the same because I don't know if there just aren't as many people going into the art of boxing. Maybe that's part of it as well. It's popular on TV, on screen, on pay-per-view, but it's
mm,
not as popular for people to actually get out there and want to do because one, it's painful. It certainly doesn't pay nearly as much as any of the other professional sports until you hit the elite level.
mm,
Once you hit that elite level, then you're talking about, yeah, you're going to get paid as good, if not more, than like soccer players and football
mm.
players and stuff like that. But until then, no, it's a really, it's a hard game. It really is.
It's very hard to hit that elite level. As I said, like I tell a lot
Mhm.
of people, for every successful story in boxing, I'll give you probably 10,000
Yes.
unsuccessful stories. That's the thing. And
Mhm.
to really
Mhm.
reach that point where you are making money and you're known globally or outside of boxing, not just for the casuals, it's very hard to get to that level. There'll be so many young,
It
hungry
is.
guys in the gym with so much talent. They'll probably
Yeah.
never get a look in. They'll probably never get
Yeah.
ever seen. But I think the difference now compared to the old days when they used to pack out the stadiums when Joe Lewis would fight or Archie Moore or them guys. There's
Uh-huh.
Charles. Now it's basketball so popular, baseball and American football. I think that's why in the last few years, besides Deontay Wilder, the American heavyweights disappeared, like the African American heavyweight. We've always had,
Yes.
like a
Yeah.
Ali, a Fraser, Joe Lewis,
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody,
Yeah.
Tyson, Riddick Bowe, Holyfield. But
Yeah.
besides
Yeah.
Deontay Wilder, the Europeans have stole the heavyweight division.
Yeah, yeah, the representation isn't there anymore, and I do believe that's for one, like nobody wants to. It's interesting. Nobody wants to be embarrassed on camera. Everything is social media these days. So
Yeah.
whatever's caught, like you know what I mean. If you see a guy getting knocked out, that man for the rest of his life, that thing is gonna haunt him on social
Mm.
media. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people don't want. They don't want that. They want to do that,
Mm.
but. I think we also have lost to a lot of other sports, like now football, basketball, track and field. There are just so many options that bigger men have now
Yeah.
that, you know, and wealth isn't, or even comfort isn't so hard to come by. Before, in past years, the level of discomfort, then that's what drove people to boxing.
Of course.
Now, now there's, people can do okay, and a lot of people are okay with just being medium, being moderately comfortable or whatever. But in order to be a fighter, you have to be seriously, it, I don't know, like life isn't always too good, you know what I mean? And you
Yeah, of
have to,
course.
you live in that, and that provides the fuel and helps you get to that next level.
Mm.
And that's kind of like what's missing in boxing today because everyone's, hey, listen, this planet is made of convenience. Now everything's convenient. So, if something makes you uncomfortable, yeah, I'll go do something else. And nobody wants to, you don't have one way to do it anymore. You have many options. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly right. There's more options than one. Usually, to get out of the slums or the ghetto or to give yourself a good
Yeah.
life was fighting, was boxing. Like
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Well, let's back to your great career. So you moved to New York at what age with your dad?
It was 1986 that I moved permanently to New York. And I think at that point I was like 20 or 20. I was born in 1963, the end of 1963.
Yeah,
So I'm not good at math.
yeah. Of
But
course,
it
that's
was,
right. Yeah,
but it
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, like I must have been, I was definitely in my early 20s anyway
Yeah.
when I came to New York. Yeah. And
And you thought
yeah,
that was the right time to take it to the next level to go
you know,
where the home of
I
boxing.
well, you're right. I think that what happened was I really think that I should have stayed amateur a lot more because what happened to me was I did see some crazy talented amateur boxers, um, but I didn't really get a chance to formulate my style.
Mm,
And that's what the amateur boxing does
of
for
course.
for like you see people that like with these 300, 200, even 100 amateur fights, there is the point that there could be burnout. Yes, there is that. But then you're just being good at boxing is it's so important. You see a lot of punches coming at you, and it's so important you see a lot of styles coming at you, and it takes away from the trauma of having something new in front of you that you have to hit, and it takes away the trauma of someone punching at you because you've seen so many and you know how to defend against them. So when you're not very experienced with boxing, punches hurt more. You don't know how to roll with them. You don't know how to, you don't expect not only the physicality, but that kind of like that mental energy is a lot of negative energy, destructive energy coming at you, let's just say.
Of
Trying to get
course.
new agey with it. But that there's that negative energy coming at you, and you have to learn how to handle that. And it takes you have to be in it for a while before it starts to make sense to you, because anything can throw you off at that time. The way a guy looks at you, you don't like the way he looks at you, you come back at him with negativity, and that may not be the kind of energy you need to win that fight. But if I've experienced, I know this guy's looking at me a certain way, or he's giving me kind of like a certain kind of flack, but I've experienced it before, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I know exactly where he lives now. You know what I mean? I know where his
Mm,
heart, I know where his brain is. I'm just gonna take him apart and systematically do my thing. That's kind of the experience that you get when you see guys from Russia, you see guys from Cuba, you see guys from Canada, the United States, the Asian Pacific, everything. That's the beauty of amateur boxing, and that's why amateur boxers that have won silver, bronze, gold medals, generally they're by far and away the best fighters there are.
of
I,
course, of course.
you know what I mean? Like Duran is an exception. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
He's an anomaly.
Well,
You know what I
he's
mean?
just an exception at all. Duran. There's only one Roberto Duran. That's right.
Only one
But
Roberto Duran.
I guess a good person to compare it would be Mark Breland. He was like one of the
Yes.
standout amateurs, one of the greatest
Yes.
ever.
Yes.
New York Golden Gloves 5 times. So
Yes.
I guess
Yep.
someone who had a career like him, or a Pernell Whitaker, Mildred Taylor,
Yes.
guys that
Yes.
had them so many fights. They competed against Cuba, Russia, like you said,
Yes.
and I guess
Yeah.
that you do your apprenticeship in the amateurs. Yeah,
Absolutely. And you see it. There's nothing you haven't seen, so then you know how to handle it.
yeah.
Sugar Ray Leonard was another one.
Oh, yeah.
Sugar Ray Seals, right? But he didn't translate it into the professional career, but for whatever reason that might be. A lot of fighters, we have our demons.
Yeah,
Kind
of course. That's right.
of catch up.
We all
Uh,
do. We all do. So
yeah.
I've had a couple of great guests on recently. I had Julian Jackson a couple of weeks ago and Terry Norris as
Yeah.
well. So it's
Oh,
been pretty
wow.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty good for me. I'm just
Yeah.
interviewing guys I looked up to myself in the year in the '90s. And
Yeah.
you as well, mate. So tell me about. So I believe that you got a TV contract in New York. Tell me a bit
Yes.
about the whole into New
Yeah.
York and how you were treated and tell me about that.
Okay, so I was in Canada. I won the Canadian title. I fought some guys internationally, and I was um, the promoter's name. He's gonna smack me for forgetting his name, but they brought me to the Sands Hotel, and the Sands Hotel in Atlantic City, and I was going to fight their house fighter, which is Curtis Parker, who was a top world
Yep.
contender middleweight at the time.
Hmm.
So they brought me from Canada. I was this undefeated kid, and Curtis versus Curtis Parker, and I fought him and I beat him over 10 rounds, and they're really impressed with it. They brought me back. I fought James Hard Rock Green,
Yep.
and I also beat him in a decision. And from there, Madison Square Garden was like they were interested. They were like, let's, you know what I mean? Maybe you want to come to New York. And at that point, things were falling apart for us in Canada in that we were doing well. We were really represented in the world ratings at that time. But there was a fight I was going to have, and it was a massive fight. I'd won the Canadian middleweight title already. It was against Ayub Kalule, and the only loss he had at
Yeah,
that point was Sugar Ray Leonard.
that's right.
Yeah, and so it was me versus Kalule. Did all the things we had to do, fought, trained, did all that. He trained, he came over. It's 3 days before the fight, and they said Ayub Kalule didn't have all of the doctor's notes and physicals and all the rest of that
Mm.
kind of stuff that he needs, and we're not going to let the fight go on.
Oh no.
And that was the boxing authorities in Vancouver did that at that point. And that kind of tells you that they don't really want you to win. They
Yeah.
don't really want you to
Yeah.
represent. You know what I mean? That was one of those moves that it was just like, okay, so we got to pack our bags and go. So that's when I took the Curtis Parker fight. And I didn't stay in Vancouver any longer, which I wanted to. But that's when we packed our bags. We went to Atlantic City, fought those fights. The Garden said, hey, come on over. And Bobby Goodman was the head of the Garden at that
Bob
time.
Goodman, yep.
Yeah, Bobby Goodman was a great guy, and he was with Ali, and he's been in
Mm.
boxing since forever. And yeah, so at that point, I came over to New York, and we planted our roots here. And I moved to 110th Street and Fifth Avenue, which is called the Gateway to Harlem.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So I mean, it was absolutely New York was absolutely what like opposite ends of the spectrum when you think of Vancouver and New York.
Mm.
Just everything about it was crazy. So I was a fish out of water for a long time, being born in Liverpool, England, then brought to Vancouver, Canada, and now we're in the the belly of the beast in New York,
Mm.
and we're competing against. I mean, you're there. I walked into Gleason's gym, and there's Jerry Cooney, and there's Marvin Hagler when he's in town, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hector Camacho, Wilfredo
Wow.
Benitez, like all these guys.
Gee.
Guys are there training. I ran Barkley, Donnie Lalonde,
Yep.
uh, just everybody was there. And you fight for a bag, you get a bag, maybe for a few rounds, but the energy of being around those kinds of guys and seeing these guys that you've watched on TV and pay-per-view and everything compete and train, and then you get to see, do you really feel on par with these guys? Do you do what they do? You know what I mean? The sacrifices they make and everything. So that was kind of like my start. Yeah.
Can't beat that. I mean, as a young fighter, to be around legends like that, it's got to
Yeah.
inspire you. It's got to motivate you so much to think, I'm
Yeah.
here now. I'm at
Yeah.
that level. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it really does. I remember my first interaction with Hector Camacho, and I mean, in my mind, he was a superstar. He was
Oh, yeah.
so, you know what I
Unbelievable.
mean? He was so incredibly talented. I remember him.
Macho time.
Yeah, Macho Time. Yeah, and this is even like when he first came out on CBS, and he was beating guys like Louis Loy, and I don't know. He was just incredible. And there's two brothers. Oh my God, both of them. One of them fought Sugar Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Viruet
Yeah,
brothers.
yeah,
Adolfo and oh yeah, yeah, forget it.
yeah.
The Viruet brothers. So anyway, they fought like Duran, they fought Arguello, and they were trainers in Gleason's gym. And they used to fight with Hector all the time. They were going at it. They were cursing at each other across the ring. They were just like, it just wasn't good, right? So I had met the Veruettes and I'd known them and, shook their hand and everything. And Camacho's in the gym. I had never met him yet, but he's in the gym and he's going off, right, doing his thing. And they're talking to Camacho and they're like, oh, you ain't that, you ain't this, you ain't that. This kid right here, you see this kid right here, and they're pointing at me. Like
Uh,
this kid would flatten you. He'll knock you out right now
uh,
like this. I'm like, yo, I don't like that smoke. Yeah, so it was kind of like and Camacho, so then he stops and he's looking at me and I'm looking at him and I'm not a punk. It's fighting,
no,
I'll fight,
yeah, of course.
but he's looking at me like, okay, and he's like this close to like like glove up, let's do something like this. And so we both just looked at each other that time. I hadn't had the chance to talk to him. He didn't know who I was because I was just new in town, right?
Mm,
And and uh and at that point in time too, like you spar with anybody, heavyweight, lightweight, flyweight, all the rest of that kind of stuff. Now they're very particular about
yeah.
weight. Yeah. But then and Camacho at that time, even though he's lightweight, junior welterweight, lightweight, he'd still get in there and he'd thump like Wilfredo Benitez and he'd be thumping these guys that were middleweights and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Um, he was so talented, so fast, so experienced. Like his eyes, he just had such great
Mm.
focus when he was in the ring. And yeah, so it never came to fruition. I was like, whew, thank God. Yeah.
A friend of mine that used to train at the Kronk gym, he said that Hector Camacho would go to Kronk and he was that respect. He's one of the only outsiders that could go and no
Yeah.
one would touch him. Like he just could beat
Yeah.
everyone. in sparring. Like
Yeah,
he earned his
yes,
respect at Kronk, and you know how the reputation
yeah,
of Kronk, everyone respected Hector. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, Hector
unbelievable.
was for real. Hector was for real. He was a crazy talent. And I think finally when I think was the Chavez that caught up to him.
Yeah,
Um,
Chavez. Yeah,
Chavez.
Chavez.
After that fight, he was never really the same.
Yeah,
But before then, oh my Lord, he's an issue for anybody. Anybody.
yeah.
Doesn't matter what weight you are, he's an issue.
Yeah, that was a big fight, him and Chavez, Puerto Rico versus Mexico, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know it was
Yeah.
he had a flashy guy versus a no nonsense guy, and it was just
Yeah. Yeah.
the perfect
Yeah.
fight. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Chavez.
yeah,
Chavez. Oh, I'm sorry. You know which fight it was that turned him around? It was Rosario.
Rosario, he
Evan
was a big
Rosario.
puncher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
yeah. He hurt Hector, even though Hector won the decision, I
he
believe,
won the
but
decision. He did. Yeah,
He hurt Hector pretty bad. And
that's
from
right.
that fight, Hector was never the same. He was fighting
Mm.
in reverse all the time.
And that's the thing. That's another good era with them guys all fighting each other, and Greg Haugen there as well, and
Hmm. Hmm.
Ray Mancini. I had Boom Boom Mancini on
Yes.
in a few months ago as well. You know, great guy,
Oh
and
my Lord.
yeah,
Wow.
you're in a good.
I'm in with legends here. Thank
You
you
are,
so
my
much.
friend. You are definitely, yeah. So you're in a good mix, and I obviously had the Iceman on as well, and yeah. But I
Yeah,
mean, that was a good era. That was another really good era, and you just mentioned a legend, Wilfred Benitez. I mean, geez, one of
yes,
the youngest world champion. Yeah,
yes,
most defensive, one of the greatest
yes,
skill. You know,
yeah,
and he fought them all too.
yes,
He fought Duran,
yeah,
Leonard,
yep,
Hearns. You know, and yeah,
yes, yeah. And it's wild. Like when you think about his fight with Tommy Hearns, Hearns clipped him, dropped him.
he
He
did.
gets up,
It was a
goes.
split.
His defensive like the ability to see Hearns's punches and to get away from that, the way he would roll and get under it, it was just one of the most spectacular uh, displays of
Mm.
defense that I've ever seen. You know what I mean? And to be able to do that when you've been gonged and your brain isn't quite, you know what I mean? Not everything's quite together yet. People think it's just like banging and it's gone. The
Especially when Tommy
residue,
hits you too,
it,
you
oh
know.
man, that guy,
We'll get to
you know,
that.
his jab, oh my God, his
We'll
right
get
hand, and
we'll get to Tommy later, but yeah, you know what I'm saying of it. Tommy hits you,
yeah,
yeah. Look,
yeah,
he
when
doesn't
he hits,
get Benitez don't get talked about enough. I mean, look, you know, he's just outside the four kings. You
yes,
know, obviously we know the four kings, but he's just for those that really don't know boxing, that you know, they don't know enough about Wilfredo Benitez.
yeah,
Unbelievable, you
yeah,
know, just unbelievable.
yes. Incredible talent. Unfortunately, I think he got burned out from his life outside the ring. I think
Yeah.
that hurt a lot
Mm,
outside of the competition. One of the most beautiful individuals you would ever meet. Like if you meet
mm.
him and he doesn't know you, he's so warm and he's engaging. Shake your hand, talk to you, make you feel
Yeah, really.
like a
Yeah.
friend. You know what I mean? He's really
God
cool. And then he
bless.
gets in the ring and he boxes, and I guess a lot of them there's like there's a nice guy in him when he boxes as well,
Of
but
course.
you know what I mean? But he is able to turn the corner and they called him El Radar. And you know, obviously the dragon as well, and the Bible of boxing, he called
Mm,
himself.
mm,
But but Radar was, I think, the most absolutely perfect name for him because he just
mm.
had this sense of when punches were coming at him and his ability to get away from them. And it's one of the biggest surprises to me that he ended up, you know, with pugilistic dementia, or even it's even
Yeah.
worse than that by now. You know what I mean? It was one of the biggest surprises to me until I began to realize that it was his life outside of the competition ring, like his
Mm,
training where he got hurt more
yeah.
than anything. You know what I mean?
Oh, you look. I don't have to tell you, my friend, but to those that don't know, the most of the damage done in sparring. I mean,
Yes.
you know, it's in the training camps,
Thank
it's
you.
sparring.
Thank you.
You know, I mean, in a fight, you
Yeah.
know, you might not, you don't get, well, you know, usually, you
Yeah.
shouldn't get hit as nowhere near as much. You're doing sparring because look at all
Yeah.
the rounds you do for every training camp, and the different. You know, you might be sparring guys heavier, guys better. I mean, I know I used to spar guys, you know, world champions levels that, you know,
Right.
that were way better
Mhm.
than me. They used to flog them every day. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely done in sparring. That's where the damage is done usually. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, but like I'm always going at it on Facebook with guys on social media, and a lot of guys are like really highly respected
Mm.
fighters, like Iceman Scully, and
Yeah,
and the pundits, Ben Doughty, who's a
yeah.
really highly respected name in boxing, and a very smart individual as well. And we're always going back and forth on stuff like that. And I
Mm.
talked to and the biggest thing that's hitting us right now that I love your opinion on, actually, let me turn the table and get some questions in on you,
Oh.
is what is more apt to knock you out? Let's say no matter what, you have John the Beast Mugabe in a 12-ounce glove or John the Beast Mugabe in a 16-ounce glove. Now, he's getting a clear shot at your chin, right? So either way, you're going to go out. Let's just say it that way. But so let's just say you're going to spar with him. You have the choice to put he has he's either going to be in like 12-ounce gloves or 16-ounce gloves. Which glove is more likely to score the knockout? Which glove do you think is more likely to score the knockout, and why?
That's interesting. Mugabe. Jeez.
Or Julian
Well,
Jacks?
yeah. Oh, jeez. Yeah, yeah. I don't think it matters what size glove they got. They're knocking someone out for sure. Well, I mean, I guess it's got to be that you think the lighter glove, wouldn't you? The
You
12
think the
ounce.
lighter glove, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and that would be that would be most people's
Mm,
reflex. It would make sense
mm,
because it's the lighter glove. But what causes the concussion? Now, we're not talking about structural damage. We're not
yeah,
talking about cuts and broken noses and all the rest of that kind of stuff. We're talking about concussing the brain.
yeah,
So what you need to do to concuss the brain is to shift the brain from left to right, right?
yeah.
The impact is going to shift the brain. Now, if I picked up a 1 pound weight and I punched somebody in the face with a 1 pound weight, that's going to do one thing. If I pick up a 3 pound weight and I punch somebody in the face, that's going to do something else, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's most likely going to concuss you deeper, if you could say that.
Yeah, I get you.
So what I'm saying, so the argument I have going back with these guys is, okay, and they always end up over exaggerating. Oh, why don't I put a 50-ounce glove on then? Then,
Mm,
I'm going to
mm,
knock out King Kong.
mm.
I'm like, yo, relax. Let's take it
Yeah,
easy.
yeah,
Not go too far. We're not
yeah,
boxing in clown gloves and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, but a 16-ounce glove that fits, and especially, you have rays and you have gloves that are six,
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it means an added weight. And if you add weight plus speed equals power, right?
Mm.
And guys with heavier hands tend to punch harder, Sonny Liston, George Foreman, whatever it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
And when you're talking about power, it's like, look, heavyweights hit harder than middleweights that hit harder than flyweights. And why is that? Because they weigh more.
Mm,
They can
mm,
transfer the weight forward. So it only makes sense. But I for some reason, it doesn't register with them. They're
mm,
just saying, they keep saying because you get cut or because maybe you're
mm,
faster, you're more
mm,
agile. Yes, you have those things. Those are the benefits of having a lighter glove. You can throw
mm.
more combinations, you can keep your hands up longer, whatever it is. But when it comes weight, when you throw the punch, you knock someone out. Now, my final thing is, so those balls they have, and you punch them, and they measure how much
Yeah,
you
yeah,
put out.
power.
So here's
Yeah.
what I did with Ben and the guys. I was like, okay, here's what I want you to do. Go to a fair or wherever it is you see that ball, and I want you to punch it bare-fisted, and I want you to punch it with the glove on. And it
Mm,
doesn't matter whether those things are inaccurate or whatever. It's going to tell you one way or the other what's lighter and what's heavier. And if you
mm,
repeat it and it doesn't fluctuate, then that's what it is. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's exactly accurate as to what the square poundage or power per
mm.
footage. So he goes there and he takes a bunch of swipes with his bare fist, and
Yep.
then he takes a bunch of swipes with a 14-ounce glove.
Okay.
And the 14-ounce glove every single time, you know, scored higher.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah. So even though it's a very primitive system, but
Mm,
it's a consistent system. So if it's
mm.
primitive and consistent, that'll tell you.
There you go. Wow. Good. Getting educated. How good's that?
No, I didn't mean to do it for that reason. I'm
No,
just
it's
I want to get more people on my side because it's kind of lonely.
100%. Yeah. Well, you get a lot of Australians on your side after this. They see this, mate, for sure. So back to your great career. So you've signed. You're there at Madison Square Garden. Obviously, there's a lot of interest about you. There's a lot of, you're
Yeah,
hot at the time. Obviously,
yeah.
you probably start getting noticed around New York, getting
Oh
entourages, all that
man,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Tell me about that on the way as
Oh, it
a
was,
sort of fast rising contender on the way to a world title.
yeah, yeah. It was really fast, and yeah, I mean, you're hanging out with like Lawrence Taylor, who's like he's from the Super Bowl champion
Mm.
Giants. You're partying with those guys, and Keith Hernandez from the New
Yeah,
York Mets.
baseball. Yeah.
Baseball players and wrestlers, and I mean, like musicians. The lead singer from Kiss, Paul Stanley.
Oh
You know what I mean?
wow.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it was just so mad cool. Just like you're in now. I remember walking into there's a great American football coach. His name was John Madden, and
Yeah, yeah.
from the Oakland Raiders, right? And I walked into this place. I walked into this restaurant, and he was sitting there, and he recognizes me and starts talking to me, and I'm just like, my mind is blown because the Raiders are my favorite team since
Mm.
forever. And I remember going to there was a club called it was in the 70s and it was really, really popular. And I walked in and Eddie Murphy's sitting there
Oh,
and he starts talking to me. And there was a guy like he had this velvet rope that sectioned him off from everybody else, right? So, and there were people lined up to talk to him, and especially the girls were lined up to talk to him.
of course.
And so as I was walking by, and he kind of like recognized me, and we started talking for a second. He loved boxing, and especially loved Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson was huge at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was a guy outside the rope with him, part of his crew, and he's talking to me like this. He's talking like this, and he's
Mm.
got this sort of speech impediment. He's talking, and we're going along like this. And I said, "Yeah, all the best. Yeah, I'll see you later." He goes, "Yeah, I'm an up and coming comedian too, and and me and Eddie are cool, and I'll see one of your fights." This and the other. Like, yeah, cool. Bow, shake hands, peace. I go. I see it a couple of years later. It's Chris Rock.
Wow, my God.
Yeah, I was like, that was really cool.
That's
Yeah.
so cool, man.
Yeah,
That's
so there was a
unbelievable.
lot, yeah, there
Mm.
was a lot of those kind of
And is
interactions.
that
But
because you were still like fighting on TV, network TV? Obviously, that you're
I was
getting
fighting on
recognized
network
and
TV, yep.
yeah,
And I was
yeah,
fighting like I was fighting in the media capital of the world. So, you know
yeah,
what I mean? So my fights are I'm fighting here and they're getting televised in Canada and in Europe, in England, in Switzerland, in all sorts of places. And so even though you're not champ, people respond to you like you are. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They see
yeah.
you, they talk to you, they want to get your autograph. You're on it. What are you doing on the subway? You're supposed to be in a
Mm.
limo kind of thing,
Mm.
like, that kind of stuff.
That's all, so cool. But obviously, with the boxing terms, do you think at that stage of your career, that might not have been a good thing, having all that sort of fame and treatment, on the way up, before you actually were champ? Do you believe that might have,
Yeah.
sort of not been
Yeah.
a positive as well?
Well, ultimately, nobody was, I think the spoilage can come in when people are giving you things.
That's right.
So the recognition means you still need to keep fighting because you're not
Mm,
getting anything. They're
mm,
definitely not getting richer and more comfortable.
mm, mm.
So that hunger is still there. And plus I'm there for the world title. I mean, I'm
That's
there
right.
to achieve a specific thing. And that was my intent and my goal.
Mm.
What what money I had or didn't get or wanted to, it didn't even figure into
Yeah,
the scheme. You know what I mean? Like I get on TV and say, yeah, if the money's right, but that's just like a, a like a reflex answer because I've heard it said so many times on TV.
yeah,
Ali would say it and all. So I'm copying my idols. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah,
yeah.
money, sure. Yeah, if the money's right. I'm like, I'm not even about that kind of money yet. What are
Of
you saying?
course. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not there at that level yet. But so you say what they say, you kind of like emulate, parrot them. But
Mm.
yeah, it was it's it's quite a journey. And and I think at that point when it really went for a year and a half, it went really well. Um, but then things start happening at the bottom, you know what I mean? Like at your foundation, not necessarily at the bottom, but
Mm.
at your
Mm.
foundation. cracks start to appear. And part of the cracks were, once further you get to the higher you get to the top, the thinner the air gets, and the
Mm,
less, you know what I mean? That you're fighting really talented guys as fast as you, guys who hit as hard as you, guys who, want it as much as you want it. The air starts to get thin, so the competition gets higher. And you need to have something different than what they have in order to, you have to be able to give them something they haven't seen before in order to win, in order to overcome. And you notice the greatest fighters that have ever been are the ones that are more different from everybody else.
yeah.
Conventional fighters are, they're good, hardworking guys. They're the work, they're that salt of the earth, kind of like, you know what I mean? Blue collar worker kind of guy.
Mm,
But the guys that are like great and really see the most success are the guys that do it different.
yeah.
It's not, you know what I mean? Even like Joe Frazier did it different.
Mm,
Muhammad Ali did it different.
mm,
Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, all the rest of them. Aaron Pryor, Alexis
yeah.
Arroyo,
Yeah.
things that separate them from the herd. And that's kind of what sticks out. And that's kind of where I had personally where I had my difficulties. Like I was running around, I'm undefeated, I'm on network TV. I got like my Nielsen ratings are through the roof. They were telling me like I had the highest ratings in 87 for that network. You know what I mean?
Wow.
The only one that competed in terms of was when they re-showed Hagler Leonard on TV, when they showed Hagler Leonard on TV, those are the only ones that was the only fight that was rated higher than me at that time. So my ratings were going really good and everything was in place, but I think that was the point where things started to take a turn for the not so good.
So where was you ranked when, say, Leonard and Hagler fought?
Yeah, I was the number one contender for Marvin Hagler's title. And
Okay.
Sugar Ray came out of retirement. I was actually Hagler's people were discussing who they were going to fight next, and I was the number one contender in the IBF, and I was in the top three with the WBA and the WBC, and so I figured I thought I was in line. It was really going to happen, and Sugar Ray had put all those things aside. He had laid all that, but then he came all of a sudden. He after the Mugabe fight, I
Yeah,
think.
he saw
I think
something.
yeah, he saw something, and a lot of us as middleweights, it's like, okay, I mean, listen, Hagler's an all-time great, and
Of course, God bless him.
I
Yeah.
can't say that I would have beat him, but I'm a fighter, so I'm supposed to
Of
fight him.
course, you want the belt. He's got the belt.
Yeah,
He's the man
yeah,
in front of you. So,
exactly.
mm,
I'm not supposed to say, oh well, it's Marvin Hagler. I can't beat him. Let me
of
just
course
wait.
not. No,
You know what I mean?
you're
That's
in the
not
wrong
how.
sport. You're in the wrong sport if you got
Yeah.
that attitude. Yeah,
Exactly.
of
So
course.
I'm all about it. And I'm thinking right now that I'm the number one contender and I'm the first one in line and I'm happy. But I wasn't the only one, like Michael Nunn and Frank Tate and everything. We saw Hagler's performance and everyone's thinking it's kind of like dropped off. And if he tries to, if you can outbox Hagler and you sort of like sleepwalk him and not necessarily get into a brawl with him,
Mm,
you could do something, you know what I mean? So the guys that were the movers, guys like me and Michael Nunn, are going to make him work really hard.
mm.
Sugar Ray sensed it, came out of retirement, jumped that fight, and of course that's going to be made because that's the $25 million fight.
Biggest payday, which was
Yeah,
talked about
yeah,
for years too. I mean, Hagler was
yeah,
chasing that for a long
yeah.
time. Ray was the
Yeah,
money
that's
man,
what he
as you know.
wanted. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's what
right.
he wanted. That's what he wanted, and it's what he deserved. I mean, I don't know if you can't say many fighters that deserve the title shot and the title and big money more than Marvin Hagler. I mean,
Of course.
the way he earned his way from where he started and all
Yeah.
the way up to this very day.
Brockton,
I would,
Massachusetts.
yeah, yeah, Brockton, Massachusetts. What's his name? Monzone didn't give him a shot, and I
Yeah.
think
Mm,
positioned a couple of times for that.
mm.
Um, he got the shot against Antifermo, got there was
Got the
the draw,
draw. Yeah, it was
and he had to
bullshit.
do it
Yeah.
all over again,
Yeah.
and then
Went
he
to
got that
went to
momentum.
England
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
He got showered with
Got shower
bottles and all the
bottles.
things,
Yeah. He
right?
never
Yeah.
he never got that's right. He was always sort of in Ray's shadow. Ray was getting
Yes.
all the things and he won his title in
Yeah.
obscurity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's what drove him. He had that I think it was definitely looked like a guy that had a chip on his shoulder. Always just wanted
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah. He was a proud warrior. He was proud.
mm,
He was strong. He was deserving, and he was such an incredible boxer.
mm,
Like a lot of people think, he's bald, he's muscular, and he's coming into, he didn't have to do that. Like his
yeah,
skills he had incredible skills.
mm,
Sometimes what Marvin Hagler would do was he'd give a guy too much respect in that way. And he tried to outbox guys that he should have just took it to. Like
mm.
he didn't try to outbox Hearns, he just took it to him. Perfect strategy. He
Yeah,
tried to outbox Leonard and gave away the first, I don't know, 3, 4 rounds because
yeah,
he was trying to outbox Leonard from the orthodox stance. That's not
yeah.
even his.
It didn't come out southpaw, which definitely gave away the first 3 rounds. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Look,
And so from
I've had arguments with a lot of people about that fight. I did give it to Leonard.
yeah,
I thought he deserved it. I thought he stole
yes,
the close rounds, and I thought,
yeah.
yeah, I never thought it was a right. I thought Leonard,
Yeah.
actually deserved it. Yeah, the
Yeah,
nod.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you
Mm.
on that. I mean, I'm a huge Sugar Ray fan as well. I
Me
respect
too. Yeah,
fighters. I remember sitting there, I was there live, and I was sitting there like 3 rows back. I couldn't even believe what was happening. I was just like, my mouth was agape. I was like, I didn't, I mean, obviously, I wanted Ray to, what I mean, to do well because I was, it was Muhammad Ali, then Sugar Ray Leonard. Those are my two
same for
favorites.
me. Same for me.
Yeah,
Exactly
for
the
you?
same.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
And then,
good
and
man.
then, and then, and then, like that was when was growing up, them too. And
Yes.
then as I got older and started boxing myself, was Roy Jones Jr.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, listen, I got my Roy story.
yeah,
It was my last fight I was having, and it was down in Mobile, Alabama.
Hmm.
And actually, Scully came to that fight, and he
Okay.
told me. So him and Roy, because he used to train with Roy, and the
Hmm.
gang came. And Kenny Stabler, who was the quarterback for the Oakland Raiders, my favorite team, he came
Hmm.
to the fight too. So I came down, and I remember coming out, and I'm on my way to the ring, and my song's on, and I'm on my way to the ring, and I'm walking to the ring, and I look, and I see Kenny Stabler, and my mind's blown, right? I'm like, damn, okay. And then I see Roy Jones right behind him. They were friends, right beside him. And I'm like, the mood in my camp, or my mood in itself at that time, I was on the other side of it. This is after the Hearns fight. I was totally like everything was falling apart physically. And I look and I see him and I see what it is. I said, I'm there already. And I'm only 25, 26 years old, but I see like the vultures in the branches looking down saying, that's my next carcass. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And
Of
that's what,
course.
because that's what I did the same thing coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Roy had like, I don't know, maybe like 8, 10 fights at the time. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And you're always looking at this guy and you're like, okay, I'll get him. This will add to my cachet. You know what I mean? Now building my way up.
Hmm.
And I just saw that, and the way he looked at me, maybe it was my interpretation at the time, but to me, his look said, "You're next," and I was like, "I don't want none of that smoke." That was my last fight. I was gone.
That
No.
was it. Yeah. He's
The
unbelievable.
worst thing would be like the worst one person's highlight you would never want to be is Roy Jones' highlight. He
100%.
hits you so many ways, so many
Triple
angles.
left hooks.
It's every single knockout he had is highlight material. So
Ah,
like if you put him and George Foreman together and you look at their highlights, that Roy's is like way even bigger than George Foreman or
mm,
Mugabe or any other puncher. You look at Roy Jones and you're just like, wow, this guy is
mm.
like he's incredible.
Unfortunately, Vinny Pazienza ends up on one of them. Unfortunately, old Vinny.
Yeah. And Vinny, Vinny has so much heart. Like
Legend.
he's
Yeah. I met him at the WC convention. Only
yes.
in Hamburg recently. We were talking. He was cool, man. The
Yeah,
Paz.
no,
Yeah,
Vinny is
he was cool.
Paz man, he's got
Paz,
so much
legend.
heart.
Yeah.
He's got so much heart. He's a beautiful person. He's a competitor, and he doesn't back down to anybody. He's like that little pit bull. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah, yeah.
he's like, hey, listen, if you're gonna beat me, then you're gonna have to kill me, and that's okay.
A hundred
And
percent.
yeah, he just goes. I love that about him. He's
It's
really
cool.
cool. Yeah, he's cool.
So
But I would not want to be those highlights.
no,
That's for
you
sure.
wouldn't want to be for sure. So let's talk about when you got the world title shot against Frank Tate.
Yeah.
There was a title vacant at the time, I believe.
The title was vacant. So Sugar Ray had retired or
Yeah.
vacated.
Yeah, vacated it. Yep.
Yeah, he didn't want to fight anybody, so any of us guys. So the WBC was, I think it was Michael Nunn and Sambu Kalambe, I think,
Yep.
and
Yep.
The IBF was Frank Tate and I at the point.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
and
run me through, you've been, you're fighting for the world title, it's Frank Tate. Run me through your mindset at that time, into your first world title shot, which you've
yes,
trained all your life for. That's been the whole
yes,
goal of,
uh-huh,
of everything you've done. You've come to New York, you build up your record undefeated.
yeah,
You're going against 84 Olympic gold medalist in Frank Tate.
yes,
Run me
yeah,
through everything, the mindset, and going into that fight.
yeah. My mindset going into it, no matter what, was I don't think I could lose this fight. My mindset, like I'm 100% confident that I'm going to win this fight. I just believe it with my very last ounce of like my cellular structure that I was going to win the fight, and uh, that was my intent going in. In training, obviously things happen, and when things happen, it's a lot of times it's about your character and can your character overcome the things that happened that that would affect your fight, and that's what it was all about. And so I think the major thing, my father was my manager and trainer at the time,
Yeah.
and that was the biggest source of that was hard to get by because we're together 24/7 forever, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And it was it picked the worst time for those issues to come up. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like certain things, pressure exacerbates, certain things that were just they were quiet, they were under the radar kind of thing. And all
mm,
of a sudden pressure focuses those things all of a sudden. And just being very like my dad was a beautiful person, you know what I mean? And I think that I embodied some of that as well.
yeah.
But there are times when um you're you just don't connect anymore. You just don't communicate. You don't talk. You don't it just is not the same thing. Like something's changed. I felt something had changed in our relationship. And the closer we got to the top, I believe the more I felt like the more controlling he got. And I felt like he didn't trust me as much anymore. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And like there were just certain things that were happening that weren't conducive to a good relationship. And then one thing I know one thing that stuck out in my mind, I've never really said it before, and it may be irrelevant to the fight, to the outcome of the fight. But in training, um, we got to Vegas and we're training. It's the last week before the fight. And there was this canister of water, like it was big in those days. And you had to cut a hole in the top so the water would flow out the bottom. And it was
mm,
just it was absolutely the stupidest thing I could have done in my life. I don't even know what I was doing. So I take a razor blade to cut the thing in the top so that the water will flow through when you open it up. And so I cut the little plastic nodule, right? And it's open, but it's not off. And I'm
mm.
trying to get it off. And I don't know why I'm trying to get it off. It's just stupidity. And I'm pushing, pushing, pushing. And all of a sudden it cuts through and I cut into I put like
Mm.
17, 18 stitches in my finger like this in my
Oh,
hand and to the bone. And I'm 1 week out of the fight, right?
oh,
So obviously sparring and all the rest of that kind of stuff's not going to happen. The promotion's done, the TV date's bought, everything is good to go, right? And so my promoters at the time, that would be Bobby Goodman and my father and my manager, which was Stan Hoffman, and the trainers and all the rest of that kind of stuff. We all get a meeting and we're sitting down, we're talking, and he said, so how do you feel like this? And me, myself, the fighter, I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect the fight. I'm going to fight anyway. I want the fight.
mm,
And at that point, your fighter's making an emotional decision. He's not making an intelligent decision. I'm not thinking with my head. obviously it's going to affect my performance because I'm not going to be able to finish up camp the way I'm supposed to.
Mm,
So so it so they say, okay, cool, let's go. We'll go on with the fight. And we go on with the fight, and what happens, happens. Now, having said that, to me, Frank Tate had my number. When I look back in retrospect, whether I could have cut my hand off, it wouldn't have mattered. I didn't know how to fight a guy with Frank Tate's ability. Like
yeah.
he was different from anything I'd ever seen before. Like he'd move his body, then he'd throw the punch. I'm a reflex fighter, so
Mm,
when come at me, I react. Now, if he's going with his chest first and a punch later, that's throwing off my timing. And he was catching me with things that I'd never been caught with before. I'd never sparred with anyone like him. Like everyone I
mm,
fight, like, they move their shoulder, the fist is coming. And so I know how to react and get away from that kind of stuff. He had this delayed reaction and he was angle here, over here. And he was doing these things. I was just like, God, I can't get a beat on this guy. You know what I mean?
mm.
And and so, yeah, so over 15 rounds, I got thumped. I got dropped twice.
Yeah.
It was absolutely a nightmare. Like it was like these dreams where you're falling and you never hit the ground, but you know you're falling. That's what that 15 rounds felt
But
like.
you showed a lot of heart though, but you look,
Oh,
like
yeah.
to get up twice and to go the distance. And I was watching it only last night, actually, and yeah, look, you obviously you put it on your mother and sister, look very concerned, obviously in the crowd, but
Yeah.
yeah, but you obviously you got through it, mate. Showed a lot of heart, so
Thank you. You know, that's kind of like the consolation prize for every fighter because every fighter should show heart because that's what you're in there to do.
that's
You know what
right.
I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
Um, so no, I mean, I thank you for that. Thank you. And for that recognition and stuff like that, because yeah, there are people that would just, pack it in and say that's
Mm.
it.
Especially
But
15 rounds too. Like
yeah,
that's the old
yeah,
school there, mate. That's it. That's
there you go.
the goat rounds. Yeah.
I just really expected more of myself.
Of
And
course, of course.
know what I mean? And that's something that every fighter has to deal with. And coming back from a loss as well it's I mean it's bananas. And you don't think about it as much when you're in the moment when you're doing it. It just seems
Mm,
like it's not even a hurdle, you know what I mean? But when you look at it and you look back at yourself at that time and the maturity level, your experience level, your physical ability level, and it is quite it's quite a challenge. It really is. Not only because of what you feel about yourself, it's what people feel about you. I mean, it wasn't too long later when I have guys like the executives from NBC are like, "Yo, I don't even know why he's fighting anymore," and they're hurting your purse. You know what I mean?
yeah, of
It's hurting your
course.
money. You know what I mean? It's like you don't understand the game, and I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that goes on a micro level in boxing
Mm.
that a lot of people don't see that influences a fighter's um, ability and energy and personality.
People that aren't in the sport, they got no idea what's going on behind the scenes and what's going
Yeah.
on with promoters, managers, TV networks. They got yeah,
Yeah.
look, it's our sport. We love it. It can be an unfair sport. It can be a very,
Yes.
very a grubby sport for some of
Oh
the people that
man.
are involved. The
Yeah.
promises that are and
Yeah.
fighters that have been ripped off over the years and everything. You know
Yes.
what I mean? So, but it's a sport, the life we chose, correct?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
people don't. That's
I
it.
don't think there's a fighter that's made it to the top that that doesn't have a series of like illicit stories to tell or something.
Of course,
You know?
100%,
Yeah.
100%. So you win a few fights, get back on the winners list, and then you
Yes.
fight another great champion in Imran Barkley.
Yes, yeah. So Iran Barkley and I was a fight that was supposed to happen initially. I was supposed to fight him and not Tate. Like what happened with the Tate fight was I had won, I beat Dangerous Don Lee on NBC and I beat
Yep.
yeah, Angelo Dundee's kid. Oh my God. This dementia is killing me. Troy. Troy. Okay, his name's definitely Troy. It'll come back to me. But he was like 23-0 with
Troy Darrell.
Troy Darrell, yes.
Darrell, yeah.
23-0 with 22 knockouts or something. And so I fought two really good punches. But anyway, he fought I fought him and that's how I got to the position of number one. Now, at that point, I was supposed to fight early, like in the what was it? That fight was in April, March, April, and I was supposed to fight like it was set for June, then it was set for July, then it was set for August, and we just kept training and eventually the Tate fight came around and happened in October when it did. It was October, right? September, October.
Mm.
The I'm losing my train of thought for a second.
It's
Sorry.
okay.
This dementia thing again. So many stimuli comes back into my mind, remembering that date and time. But I'm sorry, repeat your question again.
Yeah, you about fighting Barkley, about your
Oh,
fighting
yes.
Ryan the Blade, yeah.
Yeah. So that was in '88. And now this fight was finally gonna happen. And Iran and I were real cool at first when we initially met. And then we were both simultaneous. We were both at the Garden one time, and I'm pretty sure it was Mike Tyson said something. He was urging, he was kind of like instigating the both of us. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
were sitting talking about it, and he's like, "Oh, Iran said this. Oh, Mike said that." Da, 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 like this back and forth. And before you know it, both of us were kind of like, "Okay." And then I was like, "Oh, you're afraid of me," and he ain't afraid of nothing. And then it just escalated from there, and we started talking, and it was a natural like it was words were going back and forth between our camps. You know what I mean? Because we had a common thread in a sparring partner. So he'd come back and say, "Iran said this." I go back and then he said,
Ah,
"I said that," and so it just got up to that point where it was big apple, bad blood. And all I'm thinking of, I was just like, all I got to do, like, people don't look at me, they look at me as a silk, right? So they're like, oh, this guy, he's like, he's fancy, he's this, that, and the other. They're going
yeah,
to come in, that's like Michael Jackson. I could crack. Like, if I hit a person on the chin, they're dropping. I don't care
yeah.
who it is, I can drop them. And so that's where my mind's at. I'm like, oh man, I don't care what happens, as long if I hit him. That's it. That's a fight. It's a wrap like this. So I'm thinking I'm going in there and I'm not going in there to box him and use the skills and the abilities that I have. I'm just thinking, I don't care if he hits me. As soon as I hit him, I know I'm going to get him. And this is the warped kind of mindset.
Mm,
Like,
mm,
you're not thinking about the incoming. All you're thinking about is the outgoing.
yeah.
And so, yeah, and so the bell rings. We were talking all sorts. We were bumping our gums, both of us, all the way up in the press conference, and then it got real quiet, and then it was just time for the fight. And then the bell rings, and he comes at me, and he's swinging. Like Iran is no joke. Like he takes the brakes
Oh,
off.
of
He
course.
takes the brakes off. He is not concerned about getting hit at all. He's like, I'm fine if you hit me as long as I hit you as well. And so it was tightly contested the first couple of rounds. I could see like something was off with me. But what that was, it was like the tension of anticipation. Like when you come out the gate, like there's so much like tension. Like me, I'm not everybody. A lot of guys come out, but because I didn't have that huge amateur
Mm.
experience, I'm like this at first. I'm real tight. And then eventually, as I start to, I start to adapt to the guy's abilities, and that's when I start to improve. And so, I expected it to be kind of rocky at first, and boy, yeah, it was. The boy was throwing bombs out the gate, and I thought, I was countering him well, and I was keeping a distance. And then he caught. I made the mistake of throwing a jab, and I left it out there,
Yeah,
and he caught.
yeah.
Yeah, he caught me with a left hook on the chin, and I was like. Bam, I got hit. I didn't know where I was for a millisecond, just a millisecond, right? And then I came back into focus and I knew he was coming at me. Referee broke us up. I stepped back. But well, before that, he had dropped me. I remember he had dropped me.
Mm.
I'm not quite sure. Do you remember what the situation was? I think oh yes, I was reaching with a right hand
Yeah.
and he came over with a left hook and caught me on the back of the ear or on the top of the head. He caught me real
Hmm.
good. And so I was like, okay. At that point, I'm in survival mode,
Yeah.
and we rode it out. Got through the round, came back. The referee broke us up. He thought I was still hurt, and he threw a left hook, and I just gauged it. I pulled back, and I caught him with the hook on the chin, and I dropped him, and I was like, "Hallelujah, finally!"
Yeah.
And then I went back to my corner. I saw him getting up, and I didn't think he would get up from that shot. I honestly didn't think he would get up. I caught him so clean on the point of the chin, and I caught him in the midst of his punch.
Yeah, of
I
course.
took at the same time. He got up, we came, the bell happened. We exchanged a few punches. The bell happened. He went to his corner. I went to my corner. I was happy. I was like, I got you now, sucker. I got you now.
Mhm.
The bell came out for the next round, I distinctly remember this. I was talking to my dad, and this combination had always worked before. He said, throw a right hook to his body and come back with a left hook to the chin.
Yeah.
Throw a right hook to his body, come back to the left hook with the left hook to the chin. That's what I'm going to do. We're starting around, and I'm going to share something with you after this. I throw a right hook to his body, and he comes with a left hook counter, which is one of his favorite counters. He's done that before. I've seen him do it with
Mm,
guys,
mm.
and caught me on the back of my head, and I popped up. I dropped. I hit the canvas. I ended up getting up, and he came at me full blazing, you know what I mean? And I'm in my mind, my body is like, I'm staggering. You know what I mean? I'm making a missed shot. So my brain is fine. My
Yeah.
body's doing something different, but my brain is absolutely fine. And I'm pulling back on punches. I'm getting under shots. I'm blocking. I'm catching. He's not hitting me at all. And I see the referee moving in, and I'm like, don't you do it. In my mind, I'm like, don't you do it. And I see the referee edging in, and he's not hitting me. But my legs look weak. I'm against the ropes, but I'm pulling back. I'm making boxing
Yeah.
maneuvers, telling him he's still conscious. And he pulls, I ran off and raises his hand. And I swore every single swear word ever created by man in at that time. It was to me, it was we're fighters. That's
Yeah.
what we you have to give me as soon as I get hurt, you stop the fight. That's not the epitome. That doesn't tell you what that's not a fight. A fight is you get hurt, I get hurt, everyone gets hurt, and who comes out the end. It's the measure of that man's moxie, right? That's the way it's
That's
supposed to
right.
be.
Guard on your shield.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So I was absolutely dismayed after that fight. I was so disappointed. I held a grudge against the referee, who was Arthur Mercante Jr.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I held a grudge with him for I don't even know how years. There was times we were close together and I wanted to say something malicious and I just like, you can't say anything. And I just don't
Yeah. Yeah.
walk away. But it sat with me for a while and it sits with me to this day because that was a moment that defined your career. If anything, people would have got what could have been like fight of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If
of
anything,
course.
you know what I mean? Because we were both settled. We were hot at that point. We were ready to go, and that fight was either way. So, but yeah, it was just a bad call on my side. Now, also at that time, I'd suffered eye injuries, and I wasn't necessarily seeing well out of my right side. So I should have had my guard up here. And listen, no fighters going to a fight, very few fighters, not no fighters, but very few fighters going to a fight 100%. So
Mm.
having an eye injury or going in with a cut or going in after getting like there are guys that go into fights who've been knocked out in the gym 5 days
Oh,
earlier.
you hear it a
You know what I
lot,
mean? You know
100%.
that,
Yeah.
right?
No
Yeah,
one
you
goes
get
into a fight
uh,
100%. No one.
yeah,
That's
no
right.
one goes into a fight 100%. So I'm not looking for empathy or
Mm,
anything like that. I'm
mm,
just saying
mm,
these are the things you have to deal with as a fighter.
mm.
Sugar Ray Leonard, he was going into the Hagler fight 2 weeks beforehand. He got dropped.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he got dropped in sparring, and he like sent guys like Murky Sosa, who went down to spar with him. I think for the lawn fight, also messed him up going into that a couple weeks before the fight. They sent Murky back to New York, and
Murphy
but
Sosa, the guy that fought Roy Jones years later.
yes,
Wow.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now I used to spar with him, and let me
Mm.
tell you something. That kid was murder. Like you hit him, it's like hitting a cinder block.
Yeah.
His he was so like I spoke to Roy after that fight, and Roy said, "I'm glad I got him out early because that
Mm,
guy was an issue. Like everything about him, they call him El Corombo because his knees were
yeah,
like him,
yeah.
and he was so powerful. He used to
He
spar
was
with
upset with that stoppage. Actually, he was upset
yeah,
with that.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
thought it
Yeah,
was.
yeah. He wanted to choke out the referee. That referee
Mm,
was not a good
mm,
referee, let me
mm,
tell you. He wanted
mm.
to choke out that referee. He couldn't get a hold of him, but everyone grabbed him first. But yeah, Murky is, he's incredibly strong. He hits incredibly hard. His knuckles are like a mace, like a knight's mace. You know what I mean? You watch people, his knuckles are crazy. I'm like, yo, this guy was built to fight. You ever want to check out him and who was it? Chris was it Williams? It was the Prince Charles Williams.
Yeah, I remember him. I remember
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now you check
yeah.
out that fight with Murky Sosa and him.
Okay, I will. Yeah, he had a title, I
The
think. Yeah.
fight had to be stopped. They had two. The fight had to be stopped because they both were bludgeoning each other so much. Like neither one of them won. They stopped the fight because it was too violent. When have you ever
Wow.
heard of that in boxing,
Yeah,
man?
wow. I have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, yeah, check it out.
So
Yeah.
when did your eye injury originate? Like, when did it
Yes.
start?
Yeah. It originated. The first time it started, there was a guy named Stacy McSwain. He thumbed me in the eye on the Michael Spinks undercard, and we were fighting on that in Vancouver. That was in my like sixth professional fight, right? This is what happened then. So fast forward, I'm doing cool, all is good. I relocate to New York, and I was sparring with some kid, and I just wasn't paying attention, and he hit me in my lip first, actually, uppercut, and split my lip. And I go like this, and blood is just pouring out of my mouth, and I hold it, and I'm looking at my mouth, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at the blood in my hand on my glove. And as I come back up to look at, like we're full sparring, I come up, and he cracks me with another uppercut and hits me under my eye. And at that point, the eyeball dropped in the socket.
Shit.
And so, yeah, and that was in 86. So that was when I just come over. And so, you know, it was pretty precarious from there on in. At that point, it was a balance, you know what I mean? It was a fine balance. And I had to be I'd had a few months off, and I had to try to like bring the images back together because what happens with it was called an orbital fracture, and the eye drops in the socket. And I couldn't let on that I had that issue because if I did that, they wouldn't let me fight again in those
That's
days.
right. Yeah, you wouldn't get. Yeah,
Even if you have a retina problem, you're Sugar Ray, you'll get away with it. Anybody
yeah,
else, you're not get away with it.
yeah.
But so you just have to shut up and make best do. So I had from this point down was double vision, like here was double vision, to this side and down was double vision from here. And especially if I kept my chin down like this, I was able to bring the images together. So it was I get a single vision here. So I'm thinking to myself, yo, this is great because like I naturally keep my chin
Keep your
down.
chin down. You meant to. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's actually a blessing for me to like his eye injury because my chin's down. But little did I know, guys with like really good left hooks, like I mean Barkley, for instance, it's not going to work very well. You know what I mean? But
That's
yeah, but like every yeah,
how unfortunate to have that right when you're sort of in the peak of your career to get such a
yeah,
devastating injury. I'm so sorry to hear
yeah,
that.
yeah. And to me, it kind of says to me there are a trillion ways to lose, and there's only one way to win. And you must be vigilant in order to win. You must be like, you have to stick to your guns. You have to like immerse yourself with it in it and be in it. Like, no, like I was, who knows what I was thinking? My mind wasn't even in the sparring session, but just that one session changed the trajectory of my career. You know what I mean? Like just when you get to the upper echelon of fighters, the smallest of things separate you
Oh
from the
yeah, of course.
right?
It's inches,
Yeah,
inches.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's just that, it's timing, it's vision, it's all reflexes, it's all those things, and that's, and I think that's, I mean, look, it could not have happened, and I still could not have won the world title as well. But it's just why make it worse? Why it certainly didn't enhance my chances of becoming world champion, that's for sure.
No, of course not. So tell me about getting the fight when you find out you're fighting one of the greats
Yeah.
of the world, Hitman Tommy Hearns.
Yes.
Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Wow. That was really like a dream come true. And in one way it was great. I mean, it was great because you're in the ring with a legend.
Mm.
And at that point I had Angela Dundee working with me as well.
Oh
So,
wow,
and
great.
I have a legend in my corner and Hector Roca, who is a great trainer. I have great energy, great friends around me, and I'm
Mm.
fighting, one of the greatest fighters of all. He's definitely one
Yeah.
of the greatest fighters of all time.
Oh mate, he's
And
definitely
he,
there. And I mean Angelo was familiar with him too because he fought him with Ray
yeah,
Leonard and
he fought him with
and
Ray. Yeah,
and like I said,
exactly.
you didn't get Hagler, but you got probably one of the next best
Yeah.
things is Hitman Tommy Hearns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to get Hearns was amazing. So I'm feeling going into the fight, there's no fear involved, but because at that point, you've been through so many
Mm.
things that that I don't know, it's almost like fear isn't a part of it, but it should always be there because it helps you. You respect an
Of
individual
course,
when there's
keeps you
no fear,
sharp.
you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
And especially a puncher, you want to be aware of a puncher. You want to tread lightly. You don't necessarily want to go out there and have them, unload bombs on you early. Especially me, like Hagler's built to Iran, Barkley, Hagler, they can take that kind of stuff. My nickname was Silk.
Yeah,
There's Blade and all the rest of that kind of
yeah,
stuff. We're talking about killing people. I'm like Silk, and you know what I mean? So I'm not like I don't have the 4-inch thick skull and all the rest of that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I got
That's
to dance,
right.
look, slick him out.
That's
So
it.
so Angelo's plan was for the first part of the fight to just make a miss. And I think it was a very intelligent plan because what what that meant was I'm going to like go in there and I'm going to get used to Tommy, get used to how he punches, get
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
his speed, get used to his power, where feel his weaknesses are, all the rest of that kind of stuff. So he said, go out there. I just want you moving. All I want you to do is move. If you see an opportunity, take it, blah, 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 blah. Just that's all I want, like this, right? And so that's what I do, and I'm following it to the T. And I'm just moving and moving. I'm here, I'm there, I'm countering where I can, da da da, moving off, all the rest of that kind of stuff. Tommy's getting kind of frustrated. Emmanuel's getting a little frustrated as well. And so, but it's now the sixth round, and Hector Roca says to Angelo, we're getting too far behind. We're not going to win this fight. This kid's got to start fighting. You got to start
Mm.
sending him out to fight like this. And so Angelo's like, okay. And it was the seventh round. And he was like, okay, now's the time. Let's go get him. And that was a very good idea to go get him. Here's the thing. I don't have the kind of engine that like Hagler has or Sugar Ray Leonard has. Like Sugar
Mm.
Ray's incredible when he decides to like get on somebody
Turn
and
it
and
on. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
turn it on. Like he's just one of the most amazing finishers I've ever seen.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I don't have that ability. I readily admit I can hurt a guy, I can drop a guy, and I can finish them when they're hurt. But it's a skill to be able to get them from fresh when they're fresh to the point they're hurt, to the point you could take them out. It's an ability that so few fighters have. And that's an ability, that's an inability that I had. Like I don't think I'd have to come from bell one and work at a guy, just work at him, work at him, work at him, and eventually beat him down.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So, and I think that is basically like the lack of amateur experience and the lack of, being around, testing myself in those circumstances. So, um, so we kind of started a little late. The fight started in round seven, I think, when I planted my feet and I was just like, okay, let's go see what happens. You know what I mean? I stopped moving and I was there for him. And at that point, I I was fairly successful in being able to get to him. So seventh round, eighth round, it's starting to go good. I'm building up the momentum. It's all going great. Ninth round, now, you and I, we've watched Tommy Hearns our whole life, right? We know Tommy Hearns' style from the get-go.
That's
When
right.
Tommy goes like this, what's he gonna do? When he
The
sticks
right,
that left hand
the
like this
right
and
hand's
measures,
coming. Right hand's
And we
coming.
all know that, right? That right hand's coming through, and that right hand's got murder on it. You saw what it
That's
did to
right.
Pacino Cuevas, what it did to Duran, what it did to all these guys.
That's right.
He did to me like this. He did that. He measured me. I don't even know what I was thinking. I'm like, how stupid can you be that you didn't move your head or get out of the way? I stayed there. I just stayed there. Bam, he came through with that right hand, hit me on the chin. And the next thing I know, I'm on the way down, but it was in slow motion. It was in slow motion.
Wow.
And I see him, and he's coming at me with another right hand. And I'm arguing with myself. I'm swear to God, in my mind, I'm arguing with myself. I'm like, go down faster. Go down faster. You need to go down faster like this. And I couldn't. And he was coming with that right hand, and I hit the canvas just in time because that right hand just woof.
The next one was coming. Yeah. Wow.
I was like, ooh. But I got my stuff together. I knew where I was. I got up, I shook my hands. I went like this to Tommy, thinking it was gonna buy me time. Uh the referee says box like this. I said to him, let's go. You know what I mean? I
Wow.
went and I was like, let's go like this. I thought he was gonna like start boxing and like, oh, he still got his mind together. No, he came with he was throwing everything at me. I pulled out my best Wilfredo Benitez thing that I could do. I was moving my head all over the place. And then he did this one thing. He went like this. I was like, oh, okay. My turn like this. And I cracked him. I caught him with a hook. I started driving him back. I worked him to the ropes. There was like 10 seconds left in the round. We're exchanging center ring. He threw a left hook to my body like this. I caught it, and I came with a left hook on top of his right here, right ear. I caught him. He rocked back like this, and I knew the bell was ringing. His legs didn't like get all crazy, but I knew that I rung his bell. And then I came to throw the next shot, and the referee pushed me off at the bell just on time.
Mm.
Um, so then the 10th round started, and he got up on his bike, and he was like, that was it. He just moved around. And one of the most difficult things, if you were going to fight any one guy and he was going to get up on his toes and box like that, it would be Muhammad Ali, then Tommy Hearns. He's
Yeah.
impossible. Because he hits hard, even when he's moving.
Mm.
And that's why I have such admiration for Leonard, who, you know, Tommy in the first fight got up on his toes and started moving as well,
He
right?
did in the second part of the fight. He come back. I think
Yes,
he was the seek and kill guy. The first part of the
yes,
fight, Leonard hurt
yes.
him. He got on the bike. That fight had about three or four different changes in
Yeah, yeah, the
yeah,
tempo
yeah,
change, right?
tempo
And that's
change.
what's
Yeah,
that was so amazing about
because he
that
could just
fight.
move and he had that long jab,
Yeah,
pistol jab.
yeah,
The right hand was there, and yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I've never seen a fighter whose release is as quick
Mm.
as Tommy's.
And
Like
Tommy could punch to the body too. He could punch
he
to the
could.
body.
Although I do have to say, like he threw some left hooks to my body, and
Mm.
I didn't feel them. Like
Yep,
like
yep.
he drove that
Mm.
his right hand and his jab. Those two things were
Yeah,
like
yeah.
incredibly painful. But I have to say the left hook to the body I didn't feel. Maybe he just didn't sit down on it or
Yeah.
anything. But his headshots are murder, absolutely
Mm.
murder. And his right hook to the body is murder
Mm.
too. But that left to the body, I was like, okay.
So
But
you obviously went the distance with him. So that was,
yeah,
obviously,
yeah,
I
yeah. I
mean,
went the distance,
yeah.
and it was better. It was like, and then you look back in retrospect, I'm always like, I wish I would have started earlier. But maybe if you started earlier, you would have got caught earlier.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
never know what it is. You know what I mean? But it was I I- I'm I was to share the ring with someone so great, and to I don't know, to earn someone that great's respect. I mean,
Of
I'm
course, yeah.
I'm
And
happy
it
with
was,
that.
right at the end of your career as well, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
fight one of the all-time greats, and yeah, and
yes,
you handle yourself
yeah.
fairly well with him. So,
Thank you, thanks. And
mm.
it was a beautiful launch pad into the second half of my career. I mean, I had one more fight after that, which
Mm.
was hell. That was the Roy Jones fight, the one
Yeah,
I was telling
yeah.
you. That was a hellacious fight. And then after that, I was offered fights, but I knew what I was going to be at that point. I was a name opponent.
Yeah, he didn't want to fall into that journeyman status, mate.
Yeah,
No,
no,
no.
yeah, that
So
was
so
it.
many do, and I hate
Yes,
seeing it. I hate seeing
yeah,
great fighters that eventually just some name on some young kid's resume,
yeah,
record.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's the that's now when you get into that part of boxing, I think that's the most heinous
Yeah, I can't stand it. Yeah.
carnivorous part of boxing, and the managers and trainers do not care. They will
Nah,
just
nah.
absolutely take advantage
Yeah.
of you, and you're fodder for the next new thing coming up. And that's when I saw Roy, and I'm like, I'm out. I cannot do
Mm.
this.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah. It's one of the part of the sport that I don't like. Like yeah. Fighters need someone to stop themselves because we'll fight anyone, but
Yes.
they need someone in like a good manager and promoter to say no, to speak on their behalf, and
Yes.
and and
Yeah.
when your career's coming to an end, someone to say, look, mate, that's enough. You don't want to be just
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
there's financial reasons, which is
Yeah.
mainly
Yeah.
the reason
That's
of that
true.
time. So
Yeah.
tell me
I mean,
about after you finished boxing, you got massive into the fitness industry and you become
yeah.
like, yeah, tell me about that transition.
Yeah, that was incredible. Absolutely incredible change. And it's a transition I wouldn't have been able to make without friends, like
Mm.
really good friends, because I wasn't a US citizen at the time. I was a Canadian citizen. I didn't necessarily I my life now was in New York, and I didn't necessarily want to go back and start. I mean, what was I going to do if I went back to Vancouver, right? Like working McDonald's. I wasn't trained for anything other than boxing, and
Yeah,
I
of
wasn't
course.
thinking
Yeah.
about boxing fitness at the time. What happened was there was a chiropractor. His name was Alessandro Pereno, and great man, absolutely great man, helped me out through my career as well. And he was very supportive of me and helpful. And that gave me a platform that I could then, the comfort platform, whereas I could be like, okay, this is what I have to do next. And I created this new form of exercise, which was fitness boxing, which had been in a way for a long time. Like a lot of people that weren't real boxers had boxed in a boxing gym before. You know what I mean? You see stragglers come in, even women and older
Mm.
men, they just hit the bag, come in, jump rope, whatever it is, and leave. But boxing for fitness wasn't a thing at the time. But it's 1991, 1990, and I'm teaching my friend how to box, and I'm putting it to music in a routine, right? And they really enjoyed it. And the more people who I exposed it to, they really enjoyed it. And I was able to actually get paid for this, right? And so I was like, oh, okay. And at this point, Equinox was just starting, and Equinox is this, I think they're global now. I don't know. Maybe they have an Equinox over there in Australia. I'm not
Not
sure.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. But they're like one of the top like money earning fitness companies in the world. They'd come to me and they asked me at that time, they were very small. They asked me if I could teach boxing for fitness for their people. So I started doing group fitness classes, and so more or less started there, and it went from there. And then they used to do these fitness exhibitions, like in Italy for the international fitness community, and in Japan. And they invited me to teach this new form of boxing for fitness. And
Wow.
so yeah, so I started teaching it there. And I mean, I had Demi Moore and
Oh,
like incredible clients like that were coming to learn boxing off me as well on a solo form as well as the group fitness platform. But the group fitness platform was absolutely different. No one had done it before. Sports Illustrated, which is a big magazine over here.
huge.
Uh, oh yeah, and they did a an announcement of kind of like me teaching boxing for fitness at this group fitness class. And it just took over in terms of like the next thing to do. It was like spinning was number one.
Mm.
And then boxing for fitness came and kind of wiped it out. And everyone else
Wow.
kind of jumped on that thing. And then we were the first ones to do a boxing fitness gym, and that was called Aerospace. And we opened it up on 13th Street in New York City and the Meatpacking District. This is before Rumble and all the rest of the guys.
Yeah.
And it was immaculate. Like Hugh Jackman used to come train there. Beyonce, Mary J.
Yeah.
Blige, Q-Tip, Dustin Hoffman, like everybody, Jake Gyllenhaal,
Yeah.
everybody, like they'd come there, and it was, and the Victoria's Secret Angels. It was just like, it was madness. And I couldn't believe, like, we built it just from, they came from the experience, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool. And COVID happened and all that went away because it was really hard to keep the gym open at that point.
Yeah, yeah, that hurt my bit. I'm a personal trainer too now, and that hurt my business so bad because we were the most
Yeah.
locked down. Well, where I'm in Melbourne, we're the most locked down city in the world.
Wow.
We were the
Yeah.
most like, yeah. So I was a former boxer, Australian representative, and as amateur, and obviously a full professional. So I built up a good business just doing the personal
Yeah.
training, girls and
Yeah.
guys, mainly
Yeah.
women, but everyone, man, they just loved it, and I built up a really good business. But then
Sweet.
COVID, because you were just shut down for so long, and
Yes.
open up for a couple of weeks, shut down again, and there was no
Yeah.
couple of years, there was no everyone lost their sort of routine, and yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm still haven't recovered. I'm not
Isn't
back
it
to what I
crazy?
was. I'm still
Yeah.
still working. I've got clients, but I'll never be what I was. I don't think. Yeah,
Yes, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
it really did change things, and you needed to have, like, especially with our business, it was just me, and I had a partner, and we didn't have deep pockets, right? Not at
yeah,
that point. We hadn't grown it to that point. So if you don't have big deep pockets when you hit a crisis like COVID, there's no way you survive. And there's so many gyms that went under, and there's so many, even just personal trainers would go under because, it's just that's just the nature of the beast at that point.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's
So
disappointing because a
yeah.
lot of people got rich off COVID too, but
Yeah.
a lot of the people like us, we didn't do as good, So yeah, it's sort of,
Yeah, yeah.
you know
Yeah,
what I
you
mean?
want to choke a
Yeah,
lot of people out. I
yeah.
remember I ran Facebook sent a video the other day of me from when COVID first hit, right? When COVID first hit and they started talking about we're gonna have to shut things down, this, that, and the other, and I was like, COVID, Coach Schmidt, like this, and I took a video of myself like, oh yeah, this doesn't mean anything to me. I'm like, I'd eat my food and I'd be like, look at my
Yeah,
fingers like that.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you have to wash them first. Then all of a sudden, it seemed like the next day, everything just like, bow, shut down. But it reminded me of that time. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
and now we look back and we think, geez, did it really happen? I mean, like, it just feels
Yeah.
like now the world, I mean, the minute
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. So,
Yeah.
tell me before we finish, it's been awesome, man. Too, I've been really enjoyed this, and
Thank
as
you.
I looked up one of the guys I looked up to back in the day, and obviously followed
Thank
your
you.
career, and um.
Yeah.
Who do you like currently out of the fighters that are around now? Who's some of the ones you stand out? Some of the ones you keep
Standouts.
an eye on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Standouts for me. Starting from the top, I would say Usyk.
Mhm.
I really like his ability, his style, his personality. He's great for boxing, 365 all the way around. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
360, I should say. Yeah, yeah, all the way around. I think he's great for boxing. Um, I like the light heavyweights as a division.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah. Bivol, better
I
be
really
of
like,
all them guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, all those guys. I do like them as a division and what they're doing. I think the Monster's probably going to move up there. So, there'll always be
Yeah.
good competition
Benavidez.
there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, Benavidez, I think he'll do well. The junior middleweights, they haven't held much in a long time. You know what I mean? In a long time, and they haven't hit the depths of what the heavyweights did, I guess,
Yeah.
but they don't intrigue me in terms of personalities either. I don't know. There's just something about it. It's kind of missing. But I do like Crawford,
Yeah.
I like Crawford a lot, and I do think Crawford and Canelo is a good fight.
Me too. Yeah. I've actually got to know Bud in
Yeah.
recently. He's a cool dude, man. I'm actually bringing him to Australia sometime
Oh,
this year.
sweet.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. Great.
he's a really cool dude, man. The most
Yeah.
competitive guy I've ever seen, and
Yes.
I
I
think
believe it.
I think he can beat Canelo. I think if anyone's going to do it, it's him. I think he's
Yeah.
got the tools,
Yeah.
and I think
Yes.
Canelo's. Probably not what he was. He obviously he had trouble with good boxers like Mayweather, Edison, Lara. He's had trouble with some good boxers, and I think Crawford's got that
Yeah,
I think he's definitely got what it takes to be. Obviously, it's
yeah,
going to be an upset, but I
yeah,
believe he can do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He is of that ilk. Absolutely, I see him. Not even considering like they talk about Crawford's last fight. Oh, the guy was a junior middleweight, and look, size has nothing to do with this. Both
Hmm,
of these guys, Canelo and Crawford, are about skills. So,
that's right.
you know what I mean? Like Canelo's not going in there and mowing people down, and you know
He's
what I mean?
not knocking people out of the air. No, he's not.
That's not his thing. That's just not his thing. His thing has always been, he's a good boxer. He's an excellent boxer, and he's an amazing counterpuncher,
Mm.
and all those kinds of things. But I don't think he's fought anybody with the type of skill Crawford has since possibly Mayweather.
Yeah, yeah, I
You know
agree.
what I mean?
I
Like, I
agree.
mean, I know Gennady Golovkin is an
Yeah,
incredible fighter.
but
You know what
different
I mean? But
style, different
yeah,
style.
different styles, exactly.
Man, he had he
So,
had
so
to
I think,
box a bit against Gennady,
yes,
yeah. So, but yeah, Terrence
yeah.
with movement and I
Yeah,
know that he's competitive. Like he's not gonna. I mean, Charlo went the distance with Canelo, and Crawford's a lot better than Charlo.
yeah,
So
yeah. And you know what? And Crawford's not going to go into survival mode. You know what I
nah,
mean? Which
nah,
a lot of fighters do.
he'll go on
Crawford's
his
a
shield.
fighter. He's going to
Yeah,
try to win the fight.
yeah, he's gonna try
And
to
I
win the
think
fight. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's going to make it a great fan fight. And to see their skills, to see two people with those skills on that level, I think it's a blessing. You don't see very many fights like that. Because
Mm.
Canelo, I don't think he's hasn't really lost many steps, if a step at all. I still think he's very capable. I don't think he presses for the knockout like he may have at one
Mm.
point.
Yeah,
He's absolutely fine. It's like it isn't an ego thing for him. He doesn't have to have like he's he's respect like anyone who gets in a ring with him and think because now his average punch average or KO average is like 60% or something like
Mm.
that, 65%. Anybody who thinks he doesn't hit hard is gonna be losing their mind. Like
Yeah,
he'll
yeah,
hit you, those kind of guys that hit you hard enough to put you back in line, then they'll let you go the distance. They could
yeah.
knock you out if they put it in their mind to do that. But
Mm.
they're just like, listen, if you behave, like Roy used to do that too, as he got to
He
the light
did.
heavy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
As he gets to light heavyweights, he crack a dude, and he'd be like, if you humble yourself, I'll let you go the distance. But if
That's
you know,
right. Yeah, that's a
but he,
perfect. That's a perfect. Yeah, way to word it. Definitely. Yeah, no, I think Crawford's definitely one of the best out there. What do you think of some of the littler guys like Javante Davis, Shakur Stevenson, and guys like that?
yeah, I do like Javante. I do still think he pound for pound he's one of the best, even coming off his one of his last fight. Things happen. Uh, Fighters are so get particular. There's so many things that could sway your performance. And he himself, I heard a quote from him saying that, he's really influenced by the money, which just surprised me to say, but
Mm.
to hear. But he said that he's really about the money and he's losing because he's got money. Now he's losing the fire to fight. And so, I mean, if money was his motivation, and now that he's got the money, I can see why he wouldn't go out there as motivated as he will. But that means he's never going to be that guy to be able to get up for the kind of guy he's fighting. Like it,
That's
it
right.
doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't interest him, right? So, so yeah, he's in a particular place right now, whereas people saw the last kid he fought, I forget his name, but he
Lamont
wasn't.
Roach. Roach.
Yeah, yeah, Roach. He really didn't do anything special. He did everything good, but he
Mm.
didn't do anything exceptional. He wasn't exceptional at any one thing.
No, no.
He's just a good, basic, hardcore, blue collar worker. You know what I
Mm.
mean? He took
They
a
they
big leap
fought in the
up.
amateurs, so he knew he fought.
He
They
knew
fought in the
it.
amateurs, yeah. So he knew that he wasn't scared of Tank's power.
Yeah,
He knew that he
exactly.
could sort of handle it, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, maybe
Um,
it's a case of what Marvin Hagler used to say. It's hard to get up and run at 5 a.m. when you're sleeping in silk pajamas. So
Hey,
maybe
hey,
Tank,
hey. Silk
maybe.
isn't so bad.
That's sorry, that's your name. That's right. Yeah, that's right. But you know what I mean, don't you? Yeah, for sure,
Yeah, I
for
know
sure.
what you
That's
mean. Yeah.
exactly right. I fell into that one. That's good. That's good. Yeah. So and
It's a
obviously
good analogy.
that's right. Before we go to like what How did you see the Mayweather era? Like, I mean, obviously, he'd done a great job, great
Yeah,
fighter. But I mean, I obviously argue with a few people because
yeah,
the ones that are, because I'm very much with the Hearns era and the Leonard
yeah,
and
yeah,
and that's without
yeah.
even going back further to I won't even speak
Sure.
about Ray Robertson and that. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, great. He had a great career. And but what I obviously do believe that guys like Hearns and Leonard
yes.
would have
Different
been,
beast.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You hit the
Especially
nail
at
on the head.
welterweight. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's absolutely they're absolutely different beasts. And I understand why Floyd, kicks back at that because obviously if it diminishes his star, it's not going to be good for his
Mm, mm,
business and for him personally. You know what I mean?
mm.
Why is he going to admit that he retired undefeated? He has an undefeated record. Most people, that's all they know about boxing, the superficial, right?
That's
Like
right.
you're gonna look in and you're gonna say, well, there's no conceivable way that Floyd could flourish in a division with Sugar Ray, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, and even Wilfredo Benitez. You know what I
That's right.
I myself, I struggle to see him, you know, um, put thumping Marlon Starling. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
guys like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a hell of
Yeah.
a fight. That's a
Mm,
hell of a
mm.
fight. That isn't, that's no cakewalk. But,
And then even guys like Aaron Pryor would have been tough, and
oh man, no, I think
Chavez,
that's a good fight for him. Yeah,
or
yeah, Chavez.
Whitaker would have been a boxing match, but I mean Whitaker was a
Yep,
master
Colonel
too.
Whitaker.
So there's a lot of
Yes,
guys like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So especially when they talk about the worst matchup for Floyd would have been Tommy Hearns.
Tommy, I
Absolutely.
say it all the time. Tommy,
Yes.
worst matchup ever.
Worst matchup for him. Worst
Because
match.
this is, and you tell me what you think, and you're more qualified than me. But I think the best way to fight the shoulder roll is a straight left jab. Is
Hmm.
the lead hand, and I've seen De La Hoya, Cotto all
Yeah.
catch
Mhm.
catch
Yeah.
um Floyd with
Yes.
left jabs, or Tommy's
Yes.
left jab was on point,
Yes.
and then
Yep.
the right hand, and I just
Yes.
and the size difference. I just think
Yeah.
he's the worst matchup for Floyd.
Yes. I'll tell you another thing too, in terms of his matchup with Tommy. That would be absolutely Floyd isn't going to plant his feet in order to hit hard enough to persuade Tommy to do something different.
Mm,
But if Tommy came out and just wanted to box, like
mm,
stick and move, if Tommy wanted to do that, Floyd would not be able to touch him.
mm.
He's not walking Tommy Hearns down for one.
Nah, nah.
And he's walking into fire. It's just
Mm,
I just from
mm,
what Tommy
mm,
going forward or Tommy backing
mm,
up, I don't
mm.
see.
And
I
if great
just
fighters like, look, Sugar Shane Mosey, great fighter, but I mean, the way that he hurt Floyd, Tommy's getting you out of there. He's not
yeah,
getting off the hook. He come back after that and won most of the rounds against Shane Mosley. But
yeah,
Tommy's not letting you off the hook like that, as you know.
yeah, yeah.
If
No,
Tommy's
he's
hurting you like, mate, if
incredible.
Tommy's got Floyd hurt like
Yes.
Mosley hurt him, he's getting him out of there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That boy is like his offense is the force of nature and very few people survive it. And if they do, you
Mm,
know, it's
mm.
it's there before the grace of God go I kind
Yeah.
of thing.
But
There's
full
no
credit, I
way.
mean, full credit, not to mention nothing on Floyd's career. He fought, a lot of Hall of Famers, a lot of world champions. But I mean, it's just when we're talking to I guess, the younger school of people, and I try and
Yeah.
let them know that
Mhm. Yeah.
there's some
Yeah.
real OGs out there, some goats out
Yeah.
there that have
Yeah.
definitely would have had his number. But it's like the old
Yeah.
argument
Well,
in
look at
boxing, isn't it? Yeah.
well, what you're saying is absolutely right. Like when Floyd fights guys, he's always the home team.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like he's always the home team. It's always in Vegas in his backyard, time zone, whatever he says, it's always in his comfort. Like the bed is always set for him. The table is always set for him. And so it's almost like there's a reason why there's home field advantage and there's a way. You know what I mean? Like a football team will have 8 games home and 8 games, on the other, at someone else's home field, and they do that for a reason because it's to your advantage to be comfortable and to have your system and not have to adjust anything. So even just those little micro things go into what makes a fight. And with Floyd's temperament, those kinds of things make a difference
Mm.
because he's clockwork. He's like, this is when I run. This is how long I run
That's
for.
right. That's right.
So all those little things mean something. So you don't think that if you all of a sudden you say to him, you know what, you got to go to Manila and fight this.
Mm.
You got to fight that fight in Manila, or you got to go fight that fight in Cincinnati now, or you got
Mm.
to go fight that in Halifax. You know what I mean? Or Fiji. You know what I mean? All of a sudden you have to do that. That means it requires so much more because you've got to uproot your routine and implant that routine in another part of the world and think, and perform the same. It's not easy. And that's why
Well,
guys like me back in the day, they'd fight Philippines, Africa,
well,
England,
Sugar
Sweden.
Sugar Ray Robinson went all through
Yeah,
Europe.
yeah,
To me, he's the pound for pound,
yes.
the guy,
Germany, Paris. Yeah,
greatest. But he went everywhere. He done a tour, and
yeah,
that's the thing, and it is called a world champion, isn't it? Not just American
yeah,
champion.
yeah,
And
exactly, exactly.
the guys like that, they fought everywhere. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah,
Archie
yes.
Moore. Archie Moore
Oh
had five
God.
fights in Australia as well. He had done he
Yeah.
fought in my hometown of Tasmania. He was a yeah. So I mean, they're the true OGs of the game.
Yeah. Do those Tasmanian devils really spin? Because I saw the
Nah,
cartoon.
yeah,
They
it's
don't?
funny. It's funny. Of a boxer called Blair the Flair Cobbs. Have you heard of Blair? Blair the Flair? He's a welterweight contender. Good guy. Good guy.
Yeah,
And me, him, and Terence are at the WC convention,
yeah,
and I was trying to, and he'd only ever heard of the cartoon, and I was telling him
yeah,
about the real devils. Like they're just the real little. How can I say? They've got big teeth and they're very, very aggressive
yeah,
little things. And
yeah.
yeah, they don't
It's
spin. But I was educating him about it because he just thought the cartoon. And yeah, they're. I tell you now, mate. If they grab onto your leg, mate, they're not letting go. I tell you
really.
now. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
But you don't
I
really
guess
see
that's
them as. Yeah, but they're not as much in the wild now. A lot of them are in sanctuaries now. They're trying to preserve
yeah.
them because
Oh, okay.
yeah, because they're trying to keep them. But I mean, even koala bears, man, they've got big claws too, and the
Yeah,
kangaroos,
yeah.
they jump and
Yeah,
fight.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, exactly. No,
well,
I saw I was in Byron Bay and when
oh,
because I
you've
was
you've been to
yeah.
Australia?
Oh
Oh
yeah, it's
wow,
gorgeous
cool,
there.
man.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
gorgeous.
Byron
Had a
Bay's
good time.
beautiful.
I was there. Yeah, Chris Hemsworth, we were shooting videos.
Oh my
Yeah.
God,
And
wow.
he has a house in Byron Bay, I believe.
Yeah, yeah,
And
cool.
so yeah, it was really cool. We were going there and we were staying in these apartments, but
Mm.
they had these pillars like yeah, pillars, I guess, and they're lifted off the ground like this. And I was like, "Do you guys have floods here? Why are the houses lifted off the ground like that?" He goes, "Brown snakes might." I was like, "Huh?" He told me about it. He goes, "If you get bit, you have 5 minutes to get to the
Yeah,
hospital." And
they're
wrap
venomous.
like
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
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 So I was like, "Well, why are we like living amongst brown snakes?" But it was crazy. I was watching out for the crocs. That was my thing. You probably don't have them there. I don't know. But I saw like there's a waterway. So if there's a waterway, then there's a way for crocs to get there,
Yeah,
right?
no, in Darwin and Northern Territory in Queensland, there's cops, yeah. But you got to, yeah, like it's funny when I've been to the States, the times I've been there, everyone's obsessed with our dangerous animals and our reptiles and our spiders. And it was only recently, I was in Saudi Arabia at one of the I think it was Better Deer Bivol 2 when I was talking to a guy that works for Matchroom with Eddie Hearn. They'll come to Australia and he started freaking out about our spiders. So I was sort of building it up a bit, really sort of getting to him. And I had to stop because he was literally going to cancel his trip. He said, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
He goes, man, them
Wow.
spiders. So I started saying the
Yeah.
spiders will come in through the air ducts at the hotel. I had to sort of really stop because he was freaking out. He's like, I'm going to cancel my trip. I'm not coming.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
because but it's sort of, when you live here, you don't sort of put like,
Yeah.
we're just used to them. But I
Yeah,
grew up,
no, no.
yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
but
I
the
love
but
to
that
exaggerate.
snakes are killers, man. They will get you,
Yeah,
and
that's
the
what I'm
sharks
saying.
and all that. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
yeah,
was not going in the water, so you can forget
nah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I did one thing. I checked my shoes every morning. They said
yeah,
check your shoes every morning. You know what I mean?
yeah. For
Because you know
spiders.
what I mean. You
Mm,
never know. Yeah, for the spiders.
mm.
And before I sat on the toilet, I looked and made sure like there was no snake in
Yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. Geez,
Because
that's
I heard they
crazy.
come up through the thing. That's what they were
Yeah,
telling me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It can happen. Yeah, yeah. That's funny, man.
Could you
Um,
imagine?
oh, well, at the moment, I'm trying to I'm putting in to bring the WC convention to Sydney, Australia in
Yeah, mate.
2026. I've been
Yes.
talking to Marisa Suleiman. So this year it's in Bangkok, but next year,
Yeah.
so I'll let you know if I can
Yeah.
get it over the line. I'd love to have you to come down to Sydney with a
That would
convention,
be
and
awesome.
yeah, yeah, I'm going to try and get
Love to.
all the
Yeah.
champions, all the legends there. Yeah, so that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That would be great. And
Yeah.
this has been so amazing talking to you. I just lose
Um,
track of all time. It's just
I
like,
know it's been crazy, man, but yeah, I really appreciate. As I said, like I really respect Iceman Scully and that, and he yeah, I said, look, who can you put me on to? Because I want to keep the good guests, and he gave me your name, and I said, yeah, I know him for sure, and I really
thank
appreciate giving me your time, and I just sent you a request on Instagram, so if you can accept it, then we
yeah.
can, if you can
Oh,
share
absolutely.
some
Yeah.
videos when I edit it, and that'd be
Yeah.
great, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
been an
Let's
honor,
stay in
man, but.
touch too, man.
Keep in touch, my friend. God bless.
Yeah. No, no, we're friends now for real. Let's
That's it,
go.
my man. Well, thank you so much for being on Ringside Seat with
Appreciate it.
Tassie, and it's been
Yeah.
been a pleasure talking to one of the greats.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate your energy. I appreciate your hospitality and the fact that you're a fighter as well, and the fact that you could do this. More power to you. Continued
Mm.
success.
No, I appreciate it, man. Take care, my man.
All right, brother.
All the
Take care.
best. See you, bro. Bye.
Peace. Bye.